how do people treat you in academia if you have an eyebrow piercing, ears pierced, tattoos, or other kinds of body modification? Stick around and let's talk about it on this episode of Navigating Academia. What's up, everybody? My name is Dr. Phoenix Singh. I want to welcome you to this episode of Navigating Academia, your leading source for guidance on how to advance your career in academia. As always, I appreciate the love, so please do like and share this video with your colleagues and students, subscribe to our channel, hit that bell, and comment below. You can follow us on these social media accounts. So, today we're going to be discussing a topic near and dear to my heart, especially lately, which is how people treat you if you look different than they do in academia, specifically when it comes to body modifications. So things like, for example, I've got an eyebrow piercing, I've got pierced ears, I've got tats, I've got a sleeve. How do people end up treating you? A lot of people, and so was I got to admit, especially early career, I was really nervous about, getting the body modifications that, for me, had always been kind of on my life roadmap. They were things I was always very passionate about. But I knew that, my parents, let alone my grandparents' generation, and trust me, there are going to be people in academia, in your parents', maybe even your grandparents' generation, who are still power players in your field. How are they going to perceive it? Are they going to be judging me? Will they want to work with me? Will they want to put me on committees or editorial boards, give me opportunities? A lot of these guys we perceive to really be gatekeepers, and this can be really nerve-wracking in terms of making the decision, and it's so hard, guys, making that decision of, do I want to be kind of my true self, or is it something where I, in some ways, want to be a person pleaser or kowtow to people in the field who have, very specific opinions on how people in academia should look, should act, so on and so forth. I know that obviously everybody watching this video is going to probably think the same thing that I thought, which is, what? I'm gonna do whatever I want to do. I'm gonna look how I want to look. I'm going to feel how I want to feel, etc. But I guarantee you, when you're placed in the actual situation, you're gonna have a little bit of a little bit of thought, a little bit of tension in your head when it comes to actually making those decisions. Now, for me, I used to live in Israel, and that was a huge spiritual experience for me. I'm a relatively religious guy myself, even though I definitely wasn't growing up, but I got super into it, and I'm really passionate about it now. It's something that I really love. And it's something that, at the same time, made me really want to make any kind of body modifications that I have very personal, very meaningful, and not simply do them because I thought, I'm going to like this today, and then later on, I'm not going to like it. So for me, for example, I got my ears pierced in Jerusalem. I got my eyebrow pierced on Mount Carmel up in the Haifa region of Israel, if you know anything about that region. For my tattoos, I spent 13 years looking for the right tattoo artist. Ended up finding my dream tattoo artist in Hamburg, Germany. Hit me up if you want her details. She is phenomenal. So shout out to Tiger Style Tattoos. At the end of the day, this is something where anything that you do in terms of body modification, you really got to think about it first, especially if you're in a career where you're going to be in front of people a whole lot. But I do want to give you some things to think about in terms of different considerations before you take that plunge, regardless of whether it's gauges or piercings or tats or whatever it is, okay? Consideration one is, where are you in your career? It's definitely the case where I have found it that if you don't already have those modifications when you go into academia, I would recommend waiting a little while. Because early career, it's a lot more difficult than if you end up being, a tenured full professor or just, getting your first academic job and these sorts of things. After you're kind of already through that area in your career, it's a lot easier to kind of justify getting those body modifications. And the reason why is you need to let your work speak for yourself, which is consideration number two. At the end of the day, doesn't matter what you look like, if you produce solid work consistently, which is creative, you're not a lemming in the field doing what everybody else is doing, you're coming up with original hypotheses, you're publishing in a variety of different areas, in a variety of modalities, you're publishing books or book chapters, you're publishing articles, you're getting involved with professional organizations, you're serving your academic community, people are going to respect that a heck of a lot more than they're going to care about you having an eyebrow piercing or a really beautiful piece of art on your arm or wherever you end up, getting tatted up. So that is consideration number 2, right? Is, are you already somebody in the field who has made contributions that are going to let your work speak for itself? And if not, I want you to change your mindset, and I want you to be able to really pursue excellence in a way that's going to make you stand out, make you a brand unto yourself. And trust me on this one, at this stage, I'm the guy in forensic mental health who's tatted up with the eyebrow piercing and the ears pierced. I love that personally. I love it because, this is how I've always looked inside my own head, and it's almost like a sculpture insofar as it's, what's underneath that marble, but you gotta chisel that out for yourself. The tattoo isn't gonna magically appear. The piercings aren't going to magically appear overnight. And that is okay. Being who you are is so incredibly important. And it's something that's going to bring you deep happiness, and that happiness, that sustainable joy, is going to make you way better as an academic because you're going to be more comfortable with kind of presenting yourself both in front of other people as well as essentially in your own head. Your self-perception is going to be something where you're going to be so much more calm, cool, and collected because, you are who you are and you're accepting it, and kudos to you. Consideration 3 is what field are you in? Now, I know that this is something that seems a little bit arbitrary, but, I was in corrections and criminology. I got a lot of friends with tattoos and piercings and these sorts of things in that field relative to my colleagues who are in other fields. So for example, being a law professor, being a business school professor, as opposed to being a professor in forensic psychology, I think that there's definitely a double standard there, but it is something to be able to, again, take into consideration. Consideration 4 is what university are you at? You really need to take this into consideration, and I've found this to be true. If you're at a very conservative university, if you are at a religious university, for example, one that has a religious affiliation, it's a good idea to be able to talk to people. I always find it important to be straightforward. So if I'm talking to somebody, be it for a consultation interview or a job interview that has something to do with, academia or presenting, etc., I'm very straightforward. I mean, they can obviously see the piercings, but I'm very straightforward in terms of saying, listen, I really want to be upfront with you. I don't expect it to be an issue, but I want to make sure for your decision-making process that I do have a sleeve tattoo. It's something where if it's necessary to cover that up, I'll certainly consider that, but it is a part of me, and I just want to make sure that I'm being very respectful to you by letting you know that up front. Right? And remember, it doesn't matter what you say, it matters how you say it. If you're defensive and say, listen, I've got tattoos, I don't want the job if you have a problem with that, or if the school has an issue or is going to make me cover it up, don't be defensive, right? Just be respectful. Worst comes to worst, they say, based on what you've said, it's just not the look that we're going for, and they'll say no. And at the end of the day, that's a blessing because you probably wouldn't be happy there anyway, right? So consider how conservative or liberal the faculty affiliation that you're seeking out or that you have is, and just if there's no problem in talking to people. My fingers are crossed that you've got a few colleagues who you really respect in your department, or you've got a dean or a chair who's very open to having these conversations. And I do recommend talking to people before actually taking this plunge. Consideration number 5 is how much are you required to interact with colleagues? Now, the reason that I say this is that let's say that you're in a field that's very conservative and has a lot of really old school folks who at the end of the day maybe are not accepting of whatever your look is, which to be frank is super unfortunate, right? Especially if you're producing quality work in these things, people are judging you based on what you look like. That's not okay. You know that as well as I do. If it is the practical reality of the situation, though, think about how you can limit in-person interactions with that individual. If it's going to make them uncomfortable, the fact that you've got an eyebrow piercing or you've got tattoos, whatever it is, then, it's a lot easier to let the work speak for itself if you're communicating, via email, via phone, via fax. I know nobody faxes these days, right? But it's it's going to be a lot easier to be able to have that not be an impediment, an obstacle to your collaboration with leaders in the field. Especially early in your career, you really do want to try to make, really respectful relationships with individuals who are a lot more experienced than you, to be your mentors, to be able to help guide you, etc. And if you're in a field where the majority of individuals are very conservative, this is going to be one way to be able to circumvent any issues to the extent possible. And finally, consideration number 6. Are you still the same person as when you had all these body modifications versus not? Because if you are, you rock, right? You're amazing. I'm the exact same guy before as after. The only difference is that I'm a lot more comfortable and confident with myself in the years after I've, gotten the modifications. I'm still just as respectful. The last thing I do is kind of flaunt anything in terms of, the modifications that I've got. I make the personal decision to be able to, wear sweaters and these sorts of things when I go to conferences, and I make the personal decision that when I'm teaching specific classes that I roll up my sleeves or whatever and, feel comfortable displaying my sleeve. That's a personal call, and, I'm very pleased to be able to take that into consideration and use my personal and professional discretion in that regard, right? But remember, guys, at the end of the day, it's all about your work. Let your work speak for you. Evaluate where you are in your career, the university affiliation that you have, and also who's in your field in these power player positions. And don't forget that just because you've got power players who want something, that doesn't mean that you have to listen to them. This is something that I've learned in my career very deeply, is that just trying to please people already in your field can really hold you back, and you can be a lot more successful paving your own way. And trust me on this one, you can really develop a following of people who feel the same way you do. I have so many former students of mine that I have the pleasure of staying in contact with who the same thing, they had tattoos and these things, they've run into folks who aren't very accepting of that. And they end up seeing any iota of success that I've had as a sign that they can do it too. And trust me on this one, be a mentor, be a model for other people, going your own way. Alright y'all, thank you so much for watching this special episode. I want to hear from you in the comments below. Do you currently have, or are you planning to get, any piercings, tattoos, gauges, body modifications? And if so, how have they, or how do you think they're going to impact your career, if at all? Let's talk about it in the comments below. Don't forget to like and share this video with your colleagues and your students, subscribe to our channel, and follow us on social media. If you're interested in one-on-one career mentoring or coaching, set a consultation call with me via the website below, and let's see if we can really boost your status and branding in academia and take you to the top of your field. Signing off, everybody. Have a great day. Remember to get out there, take chances, and be your best self. Thank you so much for stopping by, everyone. It's a pleasure to have you here as always. If you enjoyed this video and you'd like to see more in this series on navigating academia, please click on one of these links over here to be able to view more original content. I hope to see you there.